Why were you born on that day, at that time, in that place, and not an hour later, is not random. There is going to be new order, new countries, new borders that are birthed from this kind of erosion and deconstruction.
Hello again, my intuitive friends. It's so good to see you here again on the Ascension podcast. Today, we have a conversation with Maurice Fernandez, who is an evolutionary astrologer and professor. So, we are going to talk about this version of astrology that allows us to look at the natal chart and have an idea of what our soul's journey is, where we're going to go, what we're going to end up doing, and what does it just kind of look like? How does it unfold? So that's what evolutionary astrology studies and helps us understand. So Maurice is going to get into a little bit of what that looks like and feels like. And we're even going to take a little dive into my own chart to kind of get a sense of how my own journey has lined up so you can have a pretty good example. We also touched just a little bit on the energies coming up in 2026. So a little bit of what you might be able to expect. But after this, if you want to meet with Maurice, you certainly can. There's a link in the description down below to his website so you can schedule a consultation with him. Okay, I hope you enjoy this and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you here. Today we're going to talk about evolutionary astrology and some really cool stuff that I think has a big impact on coaching clients if we can use it properly. So Maurice is our expert. I'd love to call you a resident expert, but you're my expert. So would you mind just sharing with our audience, who are you? What do you do? Why is this important to you?
Yeah, so Maurice Fernandez, I'm what we call an evolutionary astrologer, which basically means that I use astrology for consultation, guidance, as well as teaching astrology. I have my own school. And what is evolutionary astrology? Basically, it uses the same tool as astrology to identify what we call our soul journey. We quite often look at ourselves as human beings going through the motions of life and don't always ask, what is the purpose of this life? Why am I really here for? So this can have a professional association. What I'm here for is to be a doctor or to be a painter or to be this and that. But it is also going into understanding what are my life lessons? Why am I going through struggles in relationships? So it affects everything, all areas of our lives. And yet, if we look at the soul journey, we start to see there's a bigger picture. Things don't happen just randomly. Those, we meet and circumstances that appear to be random are actually part of a larger pattern. So that's my job, is to try to identify those patterns and understand how to be on track with who we're meant to be, what we're meant to do, maybe where we're meant to do it. So it answers those existential questions, but also very practical questions of the how to and nuts and bolts. And I've been doing this for 35 years now. So based in Arizona, but practicing internationally. I lecture everywhere, pretty much. Going to Australia soon and Europe. So it's a fascinating topic because we talked a little bit preparing for this and how astrology can be very helpful for people. But I will just say, I will just begin by saying how it helped me. Because before I got into it, I was very disoriented, pulled by peer pressure and what I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. And suddenly, when I looked at my chart and had, that kind of help, I will say a lot of the anxiety went away. A lot of confidence came through. And, you feel like you're doing the right thing. The universe supports you. So it's been a lifesaver for me personally. And that's why I'm passionate about it, because I know it can help people so fundamentally. So that's the short of it.
Yes, thank you so much. And I've actually seen an astrologer here in Boulder for the past, I think we're going on past 10 years now. And that was the whole reason why I started seeing her, was like my life was a mess. I had just gotten a divorce. I had no idea where I was going. It was just everything seemed very confusing. And she kind of helped me understand the process that I was going through. And that it was kind of designed this way, and that it's okay, and that it wasn't over. And I
Yeah.
had a ways to go, and she was honest about that, and it was totally accurate. And it, kind of, it only just came out of it in 2024, really, and now it's kind of shifting. But it was like a 20-year some outer planet
Cycle.
that was cycling, yeah, amongst, Saturn returns or all that stuff. So yeah, I found astrology, for me, if nothing else, to help me feel like I'm on track. Like, even when things are uncomfortable, I'm still on track.
And that's, I think, the key word is cycles. Because people think astrology, what is it? Faraway planets affecting us. It seems very abstract or esoteric. And yet, what it is really, it's a study of cycles. And the same way that everything in our lives revolves around the cycle of the sun, the day and night, and even cycles of the moon agriculturally, we expand that to cycles of other planets. So they each have their own rotation, orbit patterns, and it's like the hands of a clock. The clock of the sun, the clock of the moon, the clock of Mercury, and all of them. We synthesize all that to understand what cycle are you in now? And what cycle were you born under? Because if we speak about random and what is not random, uh, the time you were born, why were you born on that day, at that time, in that place, and not an hour later, is not random.
Mhm.
Even cesarean surgeries and deliveries that seem to be coordinated by, the hospital, there's something about it that represents this kind of synchronistic meaning for your life. And that's the blueprint, right? Because our starting point is your moment of birth. And when we understand that you were born on that day and that the planets were in that position when you were born, we see what cycles you're born under. Were you born under a waning moon? Were you born under an opposition? All these things matter, and they inform us on what is therefore natural for you. Now, another word you use is, I'm on track and it's supposed to be like that. I'm supposed to go through this phase or whatnot. And what is very important, and that's one of the premise specifically of evolutionary astrology, as opposed to other types of astrology, is that we understand that balance between fate, destiny, and free will. Because you can look at a chart and think that everything is predestined. So you can think that, everything is written in the stars and you don't have a choice. But what is true is that you cannot change your chart, right? This is fate. And this fate is determined according to the soul and its intentions. But what you're able to change is how you use that chart, how conscious you are. So if you have to go through something, a struggle or a challenge, that is part of your journey, but the result is up to you. Are you going to repeat the same mistakes? Are you going to date the same type of people? Or are you going to learn and elevate? So if we look at a chart, it looks like a circle and the planets are there and we see where they are. What we need to consider is that this is not just a two-dimensional flat piece of paper, it's a spiral. And so the same chart can operate on higher levels of the spiral or lower levels of the spiral. And our job as astrologers is not to just say, well, this is your lot and this is your, direction, but it's also how to elevate it. So you can really bring the best out of your chart. So we can say, one thing I need to say quite often in this conversation is that there's no good chart and bad chart, but there is a good way to use it and a bad way to use it. Um, you know, the chart is a tool. Like you have a car, are you going to crash it or are you going to go places with it? That makes sense.
Yeah. I was thinking of how that really connects with what we do in coaching is often identifying the unconscious patterns that come up in the way that people talk about the quote problem that they have that they're trying to solve and listening for that pattern through that client as whole and complete and able to able to work at their best. And then all I'm doing when I'm coaching is saying like, oh, do you see this? And then they're like, oh, and then they have an opportunity to actually be self-aware of that and do change it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client today who gave me this story about how he's kind of a rebel and he breaks things on purpose and this, but so far it's been getting him in trouble, particularly at work, where he's doing really well at work but kind of pissing a lot of people off. And just bringing that out front and talking about the importance of that rebellious energy, the importance of the ability and desire to break things so that we can create something new is really important and powerful. What if we pointed it in a direction that's more effective for you? For example, and his mind just went, oh, he's like, oh, let me write that down. you know
Yeah.
so I think that's what we do as coaches, and to add evolutionary astrology onto coaching is like, man, it's got to be a superpower.
I mean, it's this. risk of self-sabotage, you know.
Hmm. Sure.
And we have skills and we react, like you say, unconscious stuff comes in. And that's part of this spiral pattern that I'm talking about, is the more conscious you become of this pattern and these cycles, the more aligned you can be. And then, like, instead of fighting your life and going against the currents and spending so much energy uh fixing or managing, you have more universal support. You're in tune with who you are, with the organic, natural um flow of things. For you, it's not the same for everyone. And one thing people need to also realize is that it's not an effort. It's not saying, oh, this is what my chart says, so I have to do that. It's natural. It is representing you. So even though sometimes you can say, well, I didn't think about that. You told me talk about coaching. I was sharing with you an example of um, guiding parents with their teenage children and what direction may be appropriate for them, what may be a good option, because it's not just one thing. You usually have a spectrum of a few things that could be a good match. And so I was talking about how this teenager really has so many skills for medicine. And at the time, it sounded outlandish. It sounded like there was absolutely no connection to that. Nobody in the family was a doctor. They were going to do business school. And, you know, whatever the astrologer said, they didn't take me seriously. But 10 years later, I get a message that the kid is in process in medical school, and they are thriving and it's working really well. So it's not about forcing an agenda and saying, you have to do it because it's in your chart. That's if you're not a good astrologer. Um, it's usually something that opens up naturally. So yeah, the great thing about astrology, it provides clarity. What we do in a consultation is that I take the client, and it's as if we're looking at their lives from a distance. This is you, this is where you're coming from, this is the prospect of your life, and these are the choices you can make. And that's why sometimes you struggle, and how can circumvent that. So it offers clarity. Number one, it validates things that you may already know. But when you hear it for someone who doesn't know you, like a stranger who suddenly says the things that you felt always to be true, it gives you a confirmation. And then sometimes, it doesn't land. And that's fine too. It may click 5 years from now or never, but in most cases, it's empowering. And I think we all need all the help we can get in this world, um, to avoid wasting years. How many people are doing something that pays the bill, but is not soul related. It's very mechanical. And we can also say, well, maybe that's part of their journey,
Mhm.
is to go in circles for quite a while before they have the confidence to make those choices.
How do you answer the question that maybe some of your clients ask of like, how does this work?
Astrology?
Yeah.
I
Especially
mean,
when they get that hit where they're like, how does this guy know all about me? Like, how does this work?
a few things. Um, from a scientific point of view, nobody knows. There is no um, defined mechanism that explains astrology. And quite the contrary, you have every now and then an article that's going to attempt to discredit astrology as something really delusional. But we have results. And that's part of the science is even if we don't always understand the mechanism, we need to trust that something is translating, going through, and providing reliable results. We learn techniques in astrology, but why exactly the cycles of the planets are synchronized with cycles on Earth is, up to speculation. The same way we may say, well, the sun is because it's heat and light and dark. So that's easier to understand. But I won't get into the mechanics of it. You have all kinds of theory. There's electromagnetic fields, there's all kinds of resonance. We don't exactly know, but we do see, based on years of observation, and I'm not just talking about people's lives, but also historical moments where wars are breaking or huge world events. I wrote about the year 2020 and how it's going to change the world 5 years ahead of time. And people came back to me and he said, you mentioned 2020, and I kept mentioning it until December 2019. It's like this year is going to be a game changer. And it's going to create world disruptions. And at the time, there was a big risk that it would be a military conflict as well. So some things didn't happen exactly, as we thought it may, but the global effect of it, the global disruption, the the not only COVID, but also Black Lives Matters and a lot of unrest was something astrologers knew about because they track cycles. And and it's powerful, and humanity can benefit from that. We as astrologers, especially today, when astrology is becoming in some ways more recognized, we want to be very careful about how we impart this knowledge, how we teach, because it can be misused. It's powerful, and yet because of that, it can end up in the wrong hands. I see sometimes online things that make me cringe.
Mm.
For example, going on Facebook and seeing someone post very intimate things about what they're going through. My child is not talking. This is the chart of my child. Do you have any advice? And then you have crowds, people who are not trained, who are not professionals, end up giving psychological advice of great, sensitive topics. And and that's inappropriate. That's why we need to have private consultations and unpack things in a safe and diligent and professional way. The same thing with teaching. It has to be done right, and astrology is sometimes, in a way, used very superficially, dangerously. Another thing that happened that was very dramatic is how someone said, there's going to be an eclipse and be careful. And it was like sounding the alarm that pretty much something really disastrous is upon us. And it can cause some kind of unnecessary anxiety. So that's also part of misuse. And lack of training, amateur. Uh, so it's a powerful tool that needs to be addressed in with reverence, with respect, and also with appropriate training. And I'm afraid that sometimes people bypass that, and there are consequences.
Well, that's the easy way, right? Just getting into studying astrology in the last 18 months. Then every class I take, I'm like, what? Like it's just layer, 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 layer. And to be able to synthesize all of that is not just a skill. It's like um I don't know, it's a art.
It's an art, and think about the fact that you're doing soul work. Right? So this is not a weekend class. This is not an internet download. And yet, because so much is free now online, it's tempting to kind of grab bits and pieces. And I think that's fine as long as you recognize that this doesn't give you authority. You can dabble, you can explore. Um, be careful not to get anxious because you're biting more than you can chew. However, ultimately, if you want to use it, it's a sacred science. That's what I want to get to, is that in some ways astrologers and like perhaps other modalities are modern priests. It's a language of the universe, of the stars, that we're learning to translate accurately. So think about someone that doesn't translate right, and so you get all kinds of broken messages.
Mhm.
But to your point, and for what you are doing as a coach, um, astrology can help you get to a lot of deep insight more immediately because it's like an X-ray of what's going on. So think about trying to look at somebody's condition, physical condition without X-ray machines, and after X-rays were invented, it it speeds up recovery.
Yeah, that's a really, really good analogy. And people go to school to read x-rays. you know yeah, you can make a big mistake if you don't know what you're looking at. Yeah, that's great. What are you seeing for, I know there's a lot of talk about 2026 and 2027. about big changes. I know we have some external, not external, outer planets that are moving signs.
I mean, it already started in 25.
Yeah.
25 is kind of a precursor to a lot of these cycles that are going to, in a way, go full swing from 26 and on. And one of the basic, if we want to simplify and give people a general understanding, is because not only there's a lot of planets shifting to new cycles, but they're shifting to cardinal signs. And cardinals are like, the compass, the east, west, north, south. So what this means basically is that many people are reinventing themselves. There's this sense of a new identity. And it's the same way that we look at the world and we see that a lot of what was once strong, reliable, is suddenly seen as very fragile, questionable. Who are the true leaders? Who are we relying on? Uh, we see, especially since 2020 up to now, that there is a deconstruction of everything. Science used to be golden. Whatever the scientists say, it's irrefutable. And now people question that. The banks, everybody was like, the bank is the most reliable thing. I'm going to put my money in the bank and I know I'm secure for my retirement. Not anymore. Those institutions that we thought were absolutely solid are fragmented. And that is part of today, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Saturn has to do with the solid, and Neptune is the water. So think about the imagery of boulders in the shore, in the sea, and the wave crashing on the rocks. And it seems like the rocks are there, they're strong, they're withstanding all these currents. But over time, water wins and the rock is eroding. And we are at this point where everything is eroded. The Supreme Court institution, the military, the medical, all these things that were our rocks are feeling very eroded. And it can create a sense of insecurity because we don't know yet what replaces it. Think about it also, the Middle East, what's going on now with Gaza and Israel, and a lot of destruction. That's kind of an extreme. But out of these ashes, there is going to be new order, new countries, new borders that are birthed from this kind of erosion and deconstruction. So a lot of our myths are dissolving. A lot of our, what we thought to be permanent is suddenly not permanent. But we have to trust that as the water washes away, water is like the womb, and out of the womb, something new is being created. So in our lives, we may feel like, oh, this job that I thought was so safe is not that safe anymore. And all those things that I thought, I thought my parents knew everything and they would always be there. And suddenly they need help. They're not as strong as they used to be. So we go through this phase in 2025, 2026, where there's a lot of that falling apart. erosion, not trusting, not being able to trust the things we used to. And in the course of the coming years, and there's going to be like a big sequence, like a traction in starting February into northern spring, like April, May. There's a lot of new seeds, new patterns, new regimes, and new decisions in our own lives. So if you feel like you're on that threshold and you would like to reinvent yourself, or you are feeling like something doesn't feel right anymore, it's okay. it's uh it's part of the zeitgeist.
Mm-hmm. I feel that definitely personally as well, making a shift from what I've always been doing in coaching to more of this intuitive aspect in astrology, and letting go of contracts that like don't resonate anymore. And it's very scary financially because everything's,
Yeah.
first of all, everything's so unstable. And like I don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
tomorrow. And then secondly, like it's I'm inviting in more instability by making
It
changes. So
is. It's not a year for security.
mhm.
That's going to come a little later because in this kind of womb chaos, you know, dissolving, like we say, things are formless. There's an intention. It's not random. You're not lost, but you don't have clarity yet. So that formlessness is, like you say, it's not something we can easily rely on and hold on to, but it's going to take shape. It's going to be solidifying in the coming years. And more importantly, the coming year 2026 in particular, moving in, especially the second half of it, there's enormous creative energy, like doing and daring and a more adventurous spirit. So even though things are not going to be as, organized and tangible, there is going to be a lot of um, creativity. Let's an adventure. Let's try. Let's aim for. Let's plant those seeds. So people are not going to just freeze. That's what I'm trying to say. And of course, I'm talking generally, each person has a chart, it lands differently for them. For some, this is going to affect their relationship. For others, it's going to affect their, you know, residence. Each person gets it at different doses and different areas of their lives.
Well, I'm an Aries sun, so with a stellium.
You're on the spot.
I am on the spot. Yeah. In the ninth, of course.
I mean, that is very creative.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think as an Aries, one of the words that I often say Aries without knowing your, the other parts of your chart is that Aries go through phases where they reinvent themselves. It's part of their rhythm. So when an Aries comes, I'm telling them, you're not going to do the same thing for the rest of your life. You're going to go through projects. Aries professionally are project oriented. You do one thing, you focus on it, you do it for 1, 5, 10 years, then it's over. And you do something else. And it may be radically different. So that ability to kind of have blank slates is not something that we learn at school. Our culture trains us to think more linearly, one brick on top of another brick, and then you plan for retirement, and everything is making sense. But an Aries cannot function in that. And so if they try to do that, they are not just going to be frustrated, they're going to fail. And then they're going to feel guilty, something's wrong with me. When in fact, their whole thing is that they're project oriented and they cannot just do things for security. It needs to, they need to be ignited. And when they're ignited, they have tons of energy and money comes in and things roll. So that's an example, right? Of
Yeah.
how astrology can help uh, find your voice, know who you are, what's natural for you.
I was frustrated for a long time. I reinvented myself. This will be the fifth time. So about every 10 years, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if I tell you that that's part of your rhythm, you may at first feel like, oh my God, no, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Because in the moment, you think this is the final decision. But once you kind of make peace with that, life flows better. And when the transition comes, it's not coming with friction. It's not coming with so much resistance. It's more empowering. It's more natural.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that's true. The more I got in alignment with what I cared about, really, and what made me feel like I was making a difference at a level that was important. Um, yeah. So I'm a Leo rising in a Cancer moon, and I think my Leo can often give me the spurt of courage when I'm like I want to go over there, but it feels like I'm not capable or good enough or have what I need to go over there. I do have a thing that's always telling me like, well, I don't know if you can really. And then my ascendant goes, ready, bam, like the world explodes and I start over again.
What's
So
interesting, I mean, you also have an Aries sun,
mhm.
right? And the Aries sun rules your Leo ascendant. So there's for those who don't understand what I'm talking about, planets are associated with a sign. So Leo is associated with the sun. So in your case, Leo rising, meaning that that's the sign that was rising east when you were born, is represented by the sun, which happens to be in this sign of Aries. So that's a lot of fire. And fire is that agency and, do first, think after.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting, and that's something I've developed over the years, is to understand that your ascendant sign is actually a new cycle. So the Leo for you is a new energy. It's something you're not fully comfortable with. And the 12th house sign is the sign that you're closing. So the Cancer is what you've done and you're completing, whereas the Leo is what's emerging. It's like the new wave is rising. You have a Leo wave rising. And what this means is exactly that is Cancer tends to be more, stay in my comfort zone. I don't want to do something if I don't have to, and there's more shyness. It's more introverted energy. So, that kind of bravado and taking on the stage of Leo and roaring is something new that you're learning to get used to. And it's going to gain more and more importance through the years of your life. So, in some ways, people born with Leo rising learn to be on stage, not behind the scenes. And that means that they learn that they have a role to play. And if they don't show up, the whole play falls apart, the whole cast. They need to show up. But it's a process. It's a new energy they're getting used to, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any problem jumping out on stage, but I have like I don't know how to interpret that. There's it's I mean, I think it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to be on stage, but for me it's like um the sense of this fear of rejection, is really locked in. And then there's this part of me that's like, screw them.
Yeah. But is there a part of you that also say, am I ready? Am I ready?
Yeah. Am I ready to
Because,
do the thing that's really important and really meaningful? I can do the little like things here and there that don't add up to much. But when it really comes down to it, yeah, I could restart a million times.
and that's part of the Cancer 12th house, because Cancer can feel like they're not ready. I need more time in the womb. I need more gestation. I need more nutrients. And the Leo is like, no, you're ready. You
Yeah.
know, it's not always up to you. It's
That's
time.
so good, Maurice. So I was posterior when I was born. So they came in with salad spoons, as my mom says, grabbed my head, twisted me 180 degrees, and yanked me out. And my mom said I was born pissed. I was
It's
like, I wasn't
exactly true.
ready.
It's exactly, see how these things happen sometimes very literally and yet sometimes very symbolically, but it captures the soul, the patterns of the soul.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, getting yanked out was like the world saying, you're ready. Here goes nothing.
You have to show up.
You have to show up. Yeah, exactly. Fascinating.
I mean, even this session, right? Were you ready? I put you on the spot. Interesting.
Yeah, so we were just meeting to discuss this, and Maurice was like, "Well, how about right now?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's do it." Yeah, how interesting it did. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that seems about right. Well, so maybe that's what I'm feeling right now, though, too, of this transition. This next transition for me is, moving from doing coaching more traditionally to coaching coaches and doing it not traditionally, and with the astrology and the intuition. And um I am like I'm trying, my intuition's like, just do this and then do this and then do this and try and keep it in like little small bites. But inside of me, I just want to like go, like the Aries, like go, 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 go. But then another part of me is like, no, 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 no. You got some things to work out first. So I'm kind of like ping ponging around, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a,
But that's how astrology can help you. When you look at transits and you look at the current cycle, is there, if we were to analyze these components, would I be able to say, look, Grace, for you, the right timing is going to be spring. That's when this alignment occurs and it's going to trigger this and that. And as far as timing goes, it's going to land better if you direct your energy to the spring. And And so this way you don't need to struggle now and you say, oh, is it now? Is it later? Am I missing something? So you get some kind of direction and confirmation, not just about what's right to do, but when to do it. And speaking about cycles, next year Jupiter is going to be in Leo, and that's on your ascendant. So that may be an indication of when is going to be appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's powerful.
It's interesting that you say spring because my intuition's been saying March, April, May, and also for selling our house, and like I need to get into a different environment. I'm in the middle of 3,000 people, and like
Hmm.
my like intuitive feelers are always like nah! So I'm on like lit up all the time. So there's all these, I feel all these changes like just boiling beneath the surface, and for the last 2 years, and my intuition's just been like, it's okay, like
Yeah.
wait it out. Do little things here and there, but it's coming.
I mean, you're in Boulder?
Yeah.
I used to live in Boulder.
Yeah.
Nice. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. I actually live halfway between Boulder and Denver and Broomfield,
Hmm.
and I'm right on the expressway in a community of 3,000. That's like a quarter mile, like it's a
Okay.
tiny area of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And there's construction everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been a bit of an energetic like um
Drain.
ugh, huge drain. Yeah. I constantly like my back is constantly going out, or I'm just like weak, like ugh.
I mean,
Uh,
an example like that, you took about your back. So we know astrologically that the planet Saturn is shifting into Aries. Saturn has to do with structure, and it has to do with how you're building the structure of your life, but also how you are governing your own life. So in 2025, Saturn was just edging into Aries, and then it's going to be fully into Aries next year, 2026. Now, structure means that, like we say, spring may be a time where you make those decisions and you say, I'm committing to this pattern, this path, and I'm going to take leadership role in that. But structure also means you're back, right? If the structure is not right, then your back is going to be off. We talk about the highways and the environment, but when Saturn's going to be in Aries, the back is going to talk to you, because if you're out of alignment in your life, it's going to reflect structurally in your body as well.
how do I find that? What's out of
Sorry?
alignment? How do I find what's out of alignment in my life?
I mean, that's a deeper conversation.
Sure.
But it is about understanding that there's a correlation between those different layers of our lives, the professional, the spiritual, and then the physical. And sometimes, going to the chiropractor and kind of realigning your back helps you make better decisions at work. So one informs the other, and it has a rippling effect, and vice versa. The moment you have clarity about who you are and how you're going to take charge of your life, then the back problem goes away. So it's kind of a multi uh, level approach, and that's the beauty of astrology as well, is that it it shows things that can manifest on a physical and on emotional, mental, spiritual levels. Um, And that's how we understand that things are not random. Somebody may talk about their back problem, and it seems like, what does that have to do with uh professional decisions? Well, maybe there is an alignment issue.
Mhm.
I mean, it helps us look at things holistically.
Yeah, I don't doubt it's all connected for sure. And we, as humans, have this lovely like forgetfulness that seems to be uh, disruptive of putting things into alignment a lot of the time. That's fascinating. Thank you, Maurice. Now I'm going to have to schedule an hour with you because I need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it helps, it's worth it. If you are in that point where you need that validation or clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wishing you the best.
Thank you. I have 100% confidence it's all fine, but the process is a little
Yeah.
discombobulating, as I am well aware of after doing it 5 times. So, yeah. Thank you so much for just showing up and having a great conversation and demonstrating so much knowledge about the power of astrology and how, whether we like it or not, we're interconnected with the universe. And it is an opportunity for us to reconnect with ourselves in a way that maybe we never considered possible. So thank you so much.
Let's say it's available.
It's
You
available,
know,
yes.
it's a tool and we can use it. So many blessings and
Yes, thank you.
for us and for the world.
Yes, and anyone who wants to get in touch with Maurice, his information will be below in the description. And I will be in touch with you soon, Maurice. So thank you again so much.
Blessings. Bye bye.
Okay, I hope that was really interesting for you. So, if you are feeling a little bit lost, or maybe a little bit confused, or you're just looking for some clarity on your soul's journey, Maurice is the perfect person to have a consultation with. I know for a lot of people, including me, what's been changing recently is essentially things have got to go. Something new needs to form. And for me, that's been bubbling for quite some time. So I'm excited for that to start unfolding in 2026. So if you're feeling something similar and you're in the middle of that change, or you're on the edge of, quitting that thing or starting that thing, you're in the right spot. And again, Maurice is the perfect person to talk to. So click his link down below. Okay, so if you have not liked us yet on Spotify or follow us or have joined Patreon, please do so. Please, of course, share with your fellow coaches or any lightworker friends that might get something important out of all of these episodes that we do and all of the information that we provide on Patreon. And don't forget that you can have an intuitive reading free by me on any coaching question you would like. Again, the link for that is down below. So until our next session, keep moving forward and keep trusting the universe and keep connected with us and with everyone else in your life. Okay, I will see you on the other side of the holidays. Take care. Bye bye.
Truth is whispering deep within. Old ways fading, new light calls. We rise together, soul and all.